Hello, we
Hello,
are
hello.
live. Exciting stuff. I don't even know if
Yes.
there's anybody watching. Oh, hi, Stacia.
Technical difficulties on my end already. This because the sun's in my eyes. Maybe a little better. Slightly better. Okay.
Your eyeballs at stake, not mine. So,
Right. I feel like in my videos, I'm always in the dark, and my pupils look so small that like I have light eyes.
oh, okay. Hello. What?
What?
You said something.
I just
Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to the Shelf This Book Club for this month. I'm Martine. That's Bailey.
And I'm Bailey.
And I'm really bad at introing live streams, so that's fun. This month we read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I picked it. Who's to say if anybody else liked it? I loved it. So Bailey, do we want to share ratings first or do we want to discuss?
I don't care. We can share ratings, even though I kind of told you I didn't exactly rate it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you some general thoughts and like the edge I'm leaning on.
Why don't you start?
Low or high? You want me to start?
Yeah.
Should we explain the book first?
Yes, we can.
You want to synopsis of the book? It might be best coming from you.
So essentially, this book is a dystopian because it's Margaret Atwood, so of course it is. And it's about society shortly after the patriarchy has not reinvented itself, but reinstated itself in some way, half as a guise to protect women, half as a guise to control women. And our main character is a handmaid, and basically handmaids in the society are responsible for ostensibly being surrogates in a way. They're the ones who endure pregnancy for wives who cannot get pregnant. And that's about all they do. And they wear lots of red, and that's the whole book.
Red, basically.
Red.
Okay, that was a good description because I know that when I announced this book versus now that I've actually read it, I did not do a good job explaining it, nor do I think I could explain it now, so thank you. I also did just want to say, I didn't realize that you had read Margaret Atwood before.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't, so I had no idea kind of the writing style I was getting into. And this strikes me as something that very much would be up your alley. Like, this is something I would recommend to you. But when I finished the book, I sent you a Snapchat that was just like, I am confusion. And that's kind of how I feel. Like, I think I did understand what was going on, but I'm not sure I understand the point, maybe, I guess. So I guess for me, I'm teetering like around a 3-star. But also, like I said, I feel like I could be convinced the other way through discussion of the book, or like convinced. Like if you hated it, I would be like, yeah, I can be convinced of that. Or if you liked it, I could be convinced that it was better. I'm very middle of the road right now.
So Stasia says she gave it 4 stars. That's a pretty good rating. Overall, I think maybe more successful overall ratings than last month.
Yes, we don't need to talk about her.
So my rating for The Handmaid's Tale was 5 stars. For a while there, I was like 4.5, whatever. But then I was like, no, you liked it. Just give it 5 stars. So I gave it 5 stars for a couple reasons. One, I think Margaret Atwood writes dystopian in this way where like she tells you what's going on, but like in bits and pieces. And so you have to take the whole time to get the full picture of what's happening. And even then, there's stuff she's leaving up to you. So it's like very intriguing to read, a little bit addictive because you're like, well, I want to know about this thing. So you keep reading to find out when you'll figure that out.
Right. It's not a direct narrative. Like there's, like I wasn't sure what the plot was really doing the whole time throughout. I will say I was more intrigued by this than I was last month. Last month's book, I wanted to DNF the whole time I was reading it. And like this, I was in it. Like I wanted to keep going. It's much shorter than that was as well. So it was probably, if that was something longer, I would have been more like, this is too much. But I think the length for what was happening for me worked.
Yeah. A warning if you guys haven't read it, or just a comment if you have, is that it's told in a very non-linear fashion. And once we start talking about spoilers, we'll talk about why that's the case. But Margaret Atwood tends to write in this way where she jumps timelines a little bit. At least she gives you like paragraph breaks. I know some people, when they write non-linearly, they just are writing and you never realize that you're switching.
This also had a thing that kind of irks me where speech didn't always have quotation marks.
Yes, that's true.
So that's another thing. I feel like that's something people bring up in other books that I've noticed, and this does that.
Mm-hmm.
I caught on fast enough, but it is kind of jarring at first.
Yeah. You just have to be in the mindset to be like, okay, I realize that there will not all be quotation marks here.
Right. Now you know what you're doing. On Stasia's comment, though, about her liking the graphic novel more,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, because I just finished this yesterday. I do that on purpose so that things are fresh in my mind to discuss. I wasn't cramming. I was just like, I purposely saved it. But I was tempted last night to try to watch the adaptation because I was a little confused and see if that would make it all make more sense to me. And I didn't do it, but I still would like to.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched the adaptation at all, or has anyone in the comments watched?
I haven't watched it, but I want to.
Okay.
And I checked out the second book from the library immediately, so I'll be reading that too.
So that's another thing that I always want to discuss in these, I guess, especially when it's the first book in a series. Last month, I asked if anyone would be interested in continuing. So you're saying yes, you would be interested in continuing this one?
Yes. I know that the second one is not like following the same main character, but it's in the same society. And I found the society intriguing, and I wanted more answers. So
okay, I would agree to that. I think because I'm middle of the road, would lean more towards like waiting to see what you rated a sequel, or look at it and see what other people I know have rated it. But I would give it a chance.
Mm-hmm. All of us want to watch this show.
Maybe we should do it. Maybe like a week. We can pick a night that we're all going to watch it.
Other thoughts that are non-spoilery. I'm trying to think of any. Do you have any?
I just think because it's a hard book to explain, to not be spoilery is hard.
Yeah.
I guess just in terms of writing style things, this is very much written to me like a classic. Which isn't necessarily a writing style that works for me.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what else to say on that. Like I don't want to say it's lyrical, because when people say that, that's a huge like turn off for me. I don't like that word. I generally don't like lyrical books. It's not really that, but it is like heavy metaphorical. It is like not the most fast-paced thing, but like I said, I was intrigued the whole time.
So do we want to move into spoilery thoughts?
We can't.
Okay, so here's your warning. I'll give people 10 seconds to exit the stream.
Right. In 10 seconds, Martine's going to explain this book to me. Martine's going to teach me the book that I read.
So I almost messed up and didn't read the historical notes at the end.
I'm so glad that you said that, to be honest, because I always flip to the end to see like how long a book is, because I use Bookly, so I enter how long a book is, because it'll tell you your pace, how long it'll take you to finish. And I had actually put the end of the book before that. Like I was only going to read to that, and then you were like, the historical notes are part of the book, and I was like, good thing you told me. And then when I got there, I was like, oh, that was actually like the point.
Yeah.
That's like
I started skimming the historical notes, and then I was like, wait a second, they just said something that's confusing. So I went back to the beginning of it and I read it again, and I saw the year, and I was like, oh, heck, they got me. It was like 2,100 and something. So I really enjoyed the historical notes, though. Like, I thought they added a lot, especially because the whole time I was like, what is the purpose of this being written in this jumping back and forth way? Because the previous Margaret Atwood I've read, it jumped around, but it was very obvious that the reason for that was because it was like the person was experiencing the present and then they were recollecting the past. Whereas this was just kind of thoughts all over the place.
Yeah.
And at times I was like, she sounds like she's talking. Like, why is she saying, but I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this. And so when they were like, these were recordings, I was like, oh my goodness, it makes so much sense.
Because I did notice throughout the book, as we were reading, it became, I know there's a term for this, like aware of itself, where it would call out, right, like she was talking to you, like a second person thing, kind of. So I did catch on to that throughout, but right, at the end when it says this was voice recording, like obviously that made a lot more sense.
And
to me, it almost felt like diary entries that were then like, but she's writing to somebody.
Yeah.
So I was confused on that a little.
They never confirmed like what the recordings were actually meant for, because they said they didn't know. But in my mind, the way she was describing it the whole time, I was like, are you trying to talk to Luke or something?
Yeah, right. And still, it's what you just said about there really wasn't a conclusion. Like there's no, I didn't feel like there was a huge like point at the end. So take that as you will, I guess. I feel like that's kind of a thing in classics anyway. Like Stacia just said, she does consider this to be a classic, and I actually, in my spreadsheet, enter like genres. So when you look at the genre of this, it is a classic, which I don't know how do you determine something a classic when it's still modern? I don't know.
Well,
like still current.
It is considered to be a modern classic, and I've gotten into conversations with people before about classics versus non-classics, and mainly in my mind, classic doesn't have to do with the time period. It has more to do with what that particular book does for the genre as a whole. So this is a really, compared to in the 2010s when we saw like the Hunger Games and Divergent and stuff, like that was the big boom of dystopian. But this came like really before that and helped establish dystopian in a big way. Like it was a big earmarker for like, this is what the dystopian genre is going to be. And a lot of Margaret Atwood's work is that way for the dystopian genre, at least I feel. So I definitely consider it to be a classic. But, oh, hello, Harris.
Hi, Harris. Thanks for coming. So that, I guess, to me, the only other thing, the only other thing that I would consider that I've read, like kind of a modern classic, is Lois Lowry, The Giver. Have you read that?
Yes.
Okay, because I love that book. And so I guess talking about this in terms of that, like maybe I did enjoy this book a little more, or like maybe I do enjoy that genre. Because that's essentially, it's a similar concept where that's a utopian and this is dystopian.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always loved utopian, dystopian stories, particularly because they mess with your perception of what current society looks like.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the parallels between that society and our society, the whole point is to point out, you know, this is happening in our society and this is kind of messed up. And so in general, I like dystopian. I did appreciate, I feel like most of the time in dystopian, we see similar or equivalent groups split up into different, to use Divergent terminology, factions. So people who in modern society would have been equivalent are then put in a hierarchical structure. But I appreciate this was like, no, we're talking about gender and we're talking about race and we're talking about all these things. Because I feel like oftentimes dystopian tries to soften the blow of like its message for society. And in this case, it was just like straight up, we're going to tell you this is actually happening and it's messed up. And we hate it. So like, it was really uncomfortable to read as a woman. The whole time I was like, this is awful. Like I would have to stop reading sometimes, but I was like, but that's the point, to point out like women already feel this uncomfortable in regular life.
I think a lot of it throughout feels, because it is futuristic, like it's supposed to be a society in the future, but it feels so historical. Like it feels like the past, and like you said when you described it, that it's a regression. And it kind of did mess with me of like when she would talk about like we used to have modern stuff. Oh, yeah, this is supposed to be in the future. It's not in the past.
Yeah. No, whenever she would have memories of things the way that they were before, it freaked me out a lot because it helps resettle your mind in the fact that like, oh, this is like something that could happen. And one of the things I was confused about is exactly how like the coup occurred. Like they just said something about somebody killed the president, I think, and like Congress was overrun.
I would have liked more of like how we got to here, like more, I guess, world building in the beginning. Like this is how we ended up here. You're kind of just thrown into it.
So one of my main hopes for reading the second book is that it takes a deeper look at that, because
at the world.
Yeah, because in this one they were specifically like when we were going through the historical notes at the end, they were talking about how this is the story of one person in this time, and it was very much the point to get the experience of one person. But I know that the second book, I think, follows 3 different women.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's going to be a lot more like that, which is why I'm so interested in it. I want to read it so bad.
I should have went and looked at the description of the second one before this. I guess, did you also want to talk about like just the topics of like consent in this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have specific thoughts you want to start us off on.
I would give like a content warning to this in terms of like non-consensual, but it's explicitly said there that she is like, I am willing and I signed up for what's happening here, but like this is what I want.
Yes.
So I just thought that was an interesting approach to it, because I read a lot of, or I have been reading a lot of historical romances, which often do that same thing, but I feel like those are criticized so much, and I have not seen like a huge, I guess, criticism of this work for essentially the same thing.
Yeah, I think primarily in this, it would lose a lot of its purpose if it was very clear that like it was just consensual and everything was okay. Because I feel like some of its power comes from the conversations that we have about like women's bodies and how society interprets them, and how society wants to treat women, not necessarily as people, but as a method of reproduction. And specifically, it was interesting for me to see the different levels of consent across like the different types of women. So like the handmaids versus the wives, and how everybody felt about it, because it was very clear that like none of the women were truly okay with everything that was happening. But there was just such gory punishment for not going along with the way things were. Like as much as the society itself in terms of the structure and the patriarchy was a regression in a way, the methods that they used to control the population were highly regressive as well. Like the fact that there were so many executions, like executions aren't typically things.
I didn't like those.
No, that was awful. And it's even worse, like in modern America. So in my classes, we've studied the death penalty. And as it is, like most people who are assigned death penalty, like it takes 30 years or something of them on death row, whatever. And this was just so immediate and shocking to me to think like at any moment society could just revert to being this way about people. And I think it was especially like scary to read about in such a divisive time already, because I feel like different sides are already like pulling for power, and the idea that people could just run in and like switch everything is terrifying.
So I was like honestly like scared, like freaked out. Freaked out would probably be a better term than scared. When we got the like scene, I guess, when a previous life when she was with, was his name Luke? Or is that the new guy?
Luke.
Okay, when she was with him, and the day that she like got fired, and then like went home, and he was just kind of like, it's fine. Like, he was okay with now
Yeah.
holding all the power. I was just
Yeah.
kind of like,
I
no.
I think
Like, nobody seemed to freak out that much. Even her herself was just like, I had a weird day, kind
yeah.
of. Not like a holy crap type, like, what is happening? It was just kind of like, this is weird.
And the
You're
weirdest
also like, it feels like you're underwater. Like, it wasn't hitting.
Yeah, and the weirdest part is like the people who had more power in that random switch. So all the men who still could have
We're fine
stood
with
up and said something,
Yeah.
they didn't. They just said, "Yeah, I guess we'll just have to learn to live like this."
Have to figure it out. Right.
Yeah, a lot of people in chat are talking about
like, you trusted this person as a partnership, but now that they know like, she can't contribute financially,
Mhm.
what value does she hold to him?
Right.
Kind of like, oh, I don't like that.
There are a lot of people talking in the chat about forced consent versus actual consent. I definitely agree. I think a large way that this society worked in the book was like messing with women's minds and trying to teach them that like this is the way things are and like this is what you're good for. And at that point, like there's very little you can
Like, you have no
do.
other choice.
Right. And it's not even a matter of choice at that point. It's like you are led to believe these things and they retrain your brain entirely so that you believe it. The same way that they do in like when you get forced confessions from people or coerced confessions, the type where you start to believe it. And I definitely think the main character started to believe like, yeah, I deserve this and this is what I'm good for, and all that stuff, which was just frightening, probably because I think it's totally accurate that people could be led to believe that way. Like, I think even in modern society, we see a lot of times where people are given information that's not necessarily true, and they're made to believe it out of fear and out of the desire to feel safe again when things are suddenly flipped on their heads. And that's one of the most concerning parts about reading dystopians is when you realize like these same actions that are at play here are also at play in the world at large.
So I guess that just made me think of the fact when I was reading this, I kept thinking that it felt so much like a cult,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like all of society. You know what I mean? Like, I could, it seemed more reachable as like this is a small community that this is happening to, which made it feel like I just kept thinking of it that way. Like, this is a cult,
Mm-hmm.
but it's everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry, a motorcycle just drove by.
And I also think this was very timely for me to read because I just finished my unit in my advocacy class about rape and sexual assault. So to go from that to reading this book, I was like, oh.
Hyper aware, right?
Yeah.
I guess I kind of want to talk about too how she started spending more time with the commander and what you thought of like their personal time together.
Yeah. So honestly, I didn't feel too weird about it. Like it was strange, but I was like, I guess this is just going to happen for the plot now. It wasn't until later in the book when she was reflecting on the fact that he had power in this situation when things changed. The fact that he is a commander and we finally learned what that meant, you know, in a way that I started realizing this situation is even more messed up than you thought it was.
Yeah.
Because he keeps acting in the beginning like he doesn't want society to be this way. So I'm going to help you, and this is for you. The truth is that that was just another way to have power over her, because he helped set up society to be this way. And he could have changed it if he wanted to. And instead, he's using this way to further control and be like, oh, well, I'm the good guy here. And it's like, no, if you were the good guy, this wouldn't have happened to her in the first place.
Yeah. I guess I was confused on his intentions at first, obviously, as the main character was, which we never get the main character's name.
Yeah.
Like she said what she was expecting when she was first like brought in to spend time with him. And then he just wanted to, what did they do? Like play chess or something?
He played Scrabble. Yeah.
Played Scrabble, yes. And she was just like, that was like weird. and then the progression to him taking her to the club.
Mm-hmm.
I was confused about all of it. Like, what?
Yeah, I definitely felt like in a way it was grooming of her, because it was like, oh, we're gonna do this together, and it's going to be simple and easy, and then I'm going to start giving you things, and then even though he didn't explicitly want certain things in return, it was very clear that like there was a power that he was using in this relationship, and he continued to use it that way.
Right.
And so again, at the beginning, I was just like, he's just the commander and we don't really care about him. As time went on, I liked him less and less. And by the time that she was going to the club, I was like, literally, what is the point of this? Yeah. Why does she need to go to this thing? I felt like I never understood why he took her to that situation.
No, and I always had like no believability that they weren't getting caught.
Yeah.
Wasn't getting caught going to his private office or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, that doesn't seem likely.
Yeah. And
then when she started going to like Nick's, I just feel like it all felt like they were so on top of them, but then she kept getting away with like sneaking to places she shouldn't be.
Yeah, especially when the executions kept happening and it was made very clear that like anybody all of a sudden could turn you in. Yeah. And I was like, then how come she's still alive?
Yeah. She took one too many risks, maybe.
Yeah. And even at the end, I was like, Nick said, these are the safe people. And after we get the historical notes, we know she left these things behind, so she probably was safe at the time. But when they showed up, I was like, no. And that just weirded me out. I don't know. And then the other handmaids, the way that she would talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So was it?
Didn't she say at one point that one of them, like, obviously had to have known that she was gone when she was gone?
Yeah. Like, I feel like almost everybody in the household actually knew what was happening. And even when the commander's wife, Serena Joy, was talking to her about like, oh, well, there are other ways to have a baby, and I know it's illegal, but like, let's just do this instead. And all of a sudden you hear it, blah. That was super weird too, between like the doctor near the beginning of the book and then the Serena Joy near the end of the book, saying like, wouldn't you rather have a baby than do this the right way?
Right.
Like, I don't.
And she feels like it's morally wrong, even though everything that's happening to her already is wrong.
Yeah. And the fact that like these other people seem to be trying to coerce her into like having sex with these other people for the purposes of having a baby, she would still be punished for that.
Right.
For those choices that other people are trying to force her to have.
I thought the part about like that the men could never be blamed for being the one who couldn't produce was interesting, strange as well.
Yeah, hated that.
It's never the man. Always you. If you can't produce a baby, it's you. As she's like with this old man, like doesn't add up. But
yeah, I was like,
you're gonna blame somebody.
I was like, the girl before you couldn't get pregnant. His wife can't get pregnant.
He could not produce.
Yeah. But like, and that's just another example of how deep the like control in the society went, and the mind fuck, as it were, because like it was always the women's fault for everything that they did, and the only men that got punished were like that one guard who got executed, right? And even the commander should have gotten in trouble in the end for like what he did. And she kept saying, you're going to get in trouble for this. You're going to get in trouble. In my brain, he was going, I won't get in trouble for this. You'll get in trouble.
That's, I guess, kind of probably what I didn't end up liking with the conclusion is nobody got a comeuppance. Like nobody, Nick didn't get in trouble. Commander didn't get in trouble. Like it just kind of ended.
Yeah. In that way, it kind of reminds me of the ending of The Giver, where it just kind of ends and you're like, oh, this is what?
Like you see over the hill.
Yeah, you see over the hill. And part of me liked that and part of me didn't. I do think that the historical notes like helped ground me afterwards, but I still wish we had gotten confirmation from like maybe the people or something that they were actually who they said they were, or
there's no sense of whether she was safe or if she was still in harm when she left.
Yeah.
Because I guess, do you believe that Nick was trying to save her?
I have no idea what Nick was thinking the whole friggin' time.
Like at the end, just like trust me.
Yeah,
I don't know that I don't know if I believe that she was going to be safe or not.
Yeah, there was a moment when I felt like deep fear for her. Then the last line was so hopeful.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, yeah, she feels okay.
I guess I'm okay.
Yeah, she's all right. But I think with books like this, it's so hard to unpack everything because there's just so much, and it's every sentence is made to make you feel more and more uneasy about what's happening. And can we talk about all the women?
I feel like this has not been a linear discussion at all.
This is not a linear book, so we're not having a linear discussion. Can we please talk about the women at the birth?
Oh. I mean, what's to say?
It was weird, first of all, but then also this made me so mad when, what was her name? Janine, she gave birth. Like, she expended so much effort, and then they took the baby and they gave it to the wife that she was assigned to, and the wife was, like, laid back in a hospital bed, and everybody was like, oh, you did such a good job. And I was like, she didn't do anything.
Like, in agony?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
And I don't know, like, I get that there was a type of hierarchy before, and so rich and powerful people remain rich and powerful, but I feel like they never said how different people got assigned to be, like, handmaids
versus a wife.
Yeah, versus wives or Marthas, and it just... Yes, Stasia, I agree completely. The birthing situation was a mess. It was weird. I don't get what the rope was for, right? The rope was there, them breathing with her. I don't know. It was weird. And they were like, yes. Activity. Yes. They were like, let's ride in this ambulance. It's a fun day off for us.
And they were like chanting.
Yes. God, that would freak me out.
I'd be like, stop.
I was like, how did you not murder all of them? And then Janine was like messed up after sorry, again, non-linear. I'm just remembering things. Very near the end, the one time it was the guard when they let the women at him. They like blew the whistle and they were like, you have till the whistle blows again.
Oh, yes.
Just attack this man. And Janine had like the clump of hair in her hand. I don't know.
This makes sense to me. Like, why was...
I mean, for the way their society was set up, it made sense that they gave the women like that chance because they knew like they'd have so much anger at men, especially like for assault and such. Like,
you might as well let them do it to this guy,
right? And, like, instead of
one day
society. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Yes, Stasia, I don't like this idea.
I would literally be like, get out of my face.
Oh, yikes. Yeah. Well, now I've read the book, so I can't be spoiled.
Yeah. Like I said, I feel like now watching or reading the graphic novel or watching the adaptation would make it all make more sense to me.
Yeah. There's so much to sit with for this one. I feel like I already need to reread it or something. Because there's definitely...
Like I said, I feel like discussing it makes stuff click more.
Yeah. I mean, I think through my whole reading process, I was just trying to like bear it, you know? So to actually have time to reflect on it and talk about it with other people is like, Interesting.
A lot of people have read this.
Yeah.
Like, when I went to see, like, who had rated it that I'm friends with on Goodreads, like, quite a few people have, but it has very mixed opinions.
Stasia, do you recommend the graphic novel?
Because I am confused. Less confused now. Like, I understand the themes, but throughout the book, I was just like, why is this important? What's happening now? Like, why this, why that?
If the purpose was just to make us feel uneasy, then I got that.
Right. Like, to just be like, this is not right.
Yeah. And also, we haven't touched on, so I'll just say briefly, so high recommendation for the graphic novel. On the aspect of religion in this, I definitely think religion can be used as a means of like controlling people. That's been shown in the past, like it's been done. I thought it was interesting how they took, ostensibly it was just Christianity as it is today, and they changed some things about it, or they made it like stronger in order to control the specific population that they were working with.
They used the Bible to explain something.
Yes,
and
that's always a thing that I haven't been a fan of, even like as a practicing Christian myself, when people try to control my life by quoting the Bible, it makes me really uncomfortable. So for them to do that and basically set up the whole society that way was just like angering. And I know she did that on purpose, but I was just mad.
It did feel like everything was very purposeful. Like, we're doing this thing with consent on purpose. We're doing this thing with religion on purpose to make you uneasy and question those things, basically. But I don't know.
I think the main point was just to make you think about these things and confront them as like the way, or messed me up too. I was messed up reading this whole book, which made it so impactful, but it was very difficult to read at times. So you read it like really quickly, Bailey.
I read it in like, I read up to 20%, but then from 20 to 100%, I read like in 2 sittings in one day.
Right. How do you think that affected, like, was it hard to do that?
I think that was probably for the best, because I think if I spent any time away, that I would have lost connection to what was going, like, I was already confused. So, when you step away from something and come back in and you're like, I'm not quite sure what was happening, and I'm going to try to get back into it, I think I would not have been able to get back into it.
Yeah.
So I probably would recommend reading it that way. Because you read it for a while, didn't you?
I read it for like a week and a half, maybe.
Right, which is a good amount of time for the length of the book.
Yeah.
Do you think that helped you?
I don't know. I would say that I read the second 2/3 in like a closer amount of time than the beginning. Like in the beginning, I was just like, ooh, what's happening? And then
it has short chapters.
Yes, I liked that. And especially because in the chapters, there were breaks to switch like timelines and stuff. I was like, I could stop at any time.
Exactly.
Yes. Sorry, I had forgotten about that, Randy. Thanks for bringing it up. That I probably blocked that out of my memory.
So there was a reason for their punishment.
Yeah, because reading that made me uncomfortable. Yeah, I remember it now because they were so like her daughter went to a family that needed a child, and because she was having an affair, she became a handmaid. And then who knows what happened to Luke? Probably nothing bad.
That's just the thing of, I wish that there was more conclusion to this. Like, it really is a very open-ended, there's a lot of characters you don't know what happened to them. They're here, they're there. Like the girl that she talked to at the club, and then it's just like, oh, and I never saw her again.
Yeah.
Look, oh, and that I have no idea where he is. My daughter, I don't know where she is.
We have no explanation for how she got the picture from the wife, from Serena Joy. Right. Yeah. No, I left with a lot of questions, but with the feeling that I still wanted answers. And I'm hoping the second book gives me something.
I'd be curious to know if this character has like a cameo.
I'll let you know if he does.
Because you think none of the 3 characters it follows are her?
No.
But it could be, because we don't know her name.
Well, she was referenced as, I don't know how they pronounced it. In my brain the whole time I was saying Offred, but then in the historical notes when they were talking about Offred, yeah, that changed everything for me. I was like, oh, what? Yeah.
I was reading it the same way, basically. Like, I would say it out loud as Offred.
Mm-hmm. But then we got the historical notes.
It is of Fred.
The historical notes messed me up so much, to be honest.
I would have even liked more of that, like when they were talking, like, we're going to keep this speech short because last night was way too long, ha 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 ha. But I'm like, no more, please. Explain more.
Everything. Yeah. Any other thoughts you want to share about it before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Any of the one in the comments if you have like stuff we didn't touch on.
Lots about women being penalized.
I do. No. Like I said, would pick this book for you.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the whole point of wanting to do the book club was to try like new things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I tell everyone to pick something that is in their comfort zone so that I can try something out of my comfort zone. Like don't try to recommend me something, read something you're really excited for. So I'm very happy with your pick here because this is definitely something I never would have picked up. Like this was not on my radar at all. Like even the topic of like modern classic, I've been like, I'm out. And I think it's something that like does in a way shape something that's not as like it does shape how you would read any other dystopian like the Hunger Games, Divergent, stuff like that, The Giver, to just have the context of something that's a little bit more maybe smart. I don't know what I'm trying to describe. You know what I'm trying to say? Like something deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy that we read this.
Yeah. No, I had a good time. Final rating day?
I don't know. Like I've been using call pile, so I'd have to put it in a call pile. I think I'll probably just sit at a 3-star, to be honest.
That's still a good rating.
No, that's I'm a harsh rater. If I thought it was 2-star, 1-star, I'd be like, it's 1 star.
You'd be like, this is the worst.
I just think there's nothing I did that I disliked. But I mean, there's things I disliked. But I didn't leave it saying this wasn't good.
Right. You still got something.
It leaves you with a lot to think about. So I think like that in itself, a book that you think about for a long time deserves high ratings, I guess. Because there's things I rate 4 stars that I'm like in and out. I don't know what I read.
Yeah, Sage is right. You just wanted more, and that's
I wanted more of a conclusion, which I guess that's a topic too of like, do you like character-driven or plot-driven books better?
Yeah. See, I love character books, so this was perfect for me.
Right.
I got character.
I mean, I need some plot. I need some.
I don't need any plot. I require literally 0 plot to be happy. Oh, that's interesting. They said it both ways in the audiobook too. Like off Fred and then of Fred.
Oh, okay.
So pronounce them like they were regular names.
I think I would have struggled through this as an audiobook.
Yeah, I would not have known. I needed to see the paragraph breaks to know when she was switching to the line.
And I am a physical reader anyway.
Mm-hmm. But no, this would probably not be a good audiobook experience for me.
No. Okay. I'm just going to quickly mention that next month we will be on Kayla's channel from Kayla Ray Reads, and we are reading Where Dreams Descend by, I'm reading it, Janella Angelis, which is I believe, a young adult, like, fantasy type book. It has been compared to Caraval, so Stasia, I'm expecting you. I'm counting on you this month. And then after that, we will be taking a break for a month. I'm gonna take the month of June off and then do 3. I'm probably gonna do 3 again and then take another month off, so in spurts of that. So I will soon announce the next 3, like, probably the next week or 2. I have 2 of the next 3, so I need 1 more, and then I'll probably announce them all in a clump. Just, I think for people to get a hold of stuff, I think I would rather announce sooner than, like, hold anticipation, just so people can get a hold of things. But that's the plan for the next few months for the book club.
Awesome. So thanks for joining us today, guys. I'm going to end this stream here. We'll see you next month on Kayla's channel for Where Dreams Descend.